There we
As long as we've got coffee, it's all that matters.
go. I thought this is a this is a lovely session where I can sit back a bit and I can drink coffee while it's going. But welcome. I am really delighted that Trish is here to share this session, and I know that more people will come as we go along and jump into a really beautiful conversation. But I wanted to start out here exploring. I've been spending a bit of time um, in class with Nora Bateson lately, and I'm not sure if you're familiar. Let me just share my screen. Uh, so let me share screen. You don't need to see that. So Nora Bateson is. Let me get the right one. Nora Bateson is an amazing systems thinker. She's the daughter of Gregory Bateson, and she has this thing called warm data, and it's a theory, but mostly it's a practice. It's a practice of being in relationship with one another. And at the moment, she's running a program called. Um, Actually, I'll stop trying to share full screen so you can actually see the URL. Let's see. Yeah, so it's warmdata.life. So I wanted to start actually with this poem from Nora, and I thought that might be a nice way to go. Let me just, I, I need to restart the sharing of my screen so I do the sound well, share sound. There we go. Okay, so Nora Bateson is, like I said, a systems thinker, and her voice and her way of speaking really resonates beautifully with me, and particularly in terms of the kind of education that we need in the world and the kind of thinking that underpins how we show up in the permaculture world. And when I first came across her, I it just felt like coming home, like that she was like a sister in thinking. So I have this poem. I'm going to share it with you in her voice. So let's go. And you can read along as you go too.
This poem is called Mama Now, and it's for my children, your children, our children's children. Your eyes will see the derailing of assumptions. Your hands will hold the crumble of the old matrix. I do not have any authority to lean into. I have empty pockets where parents used to advise their children. I do not have any maps, myths, or mother wisdom for you. I can fix your breakfast, but not the culture. And when you ask how to be a good person, I cannot lie to you. Everything you touch in a day is in some way bloodied. You've been born into an edgeless violence. But I will not judge or measure you against a bygone metric. I'm here, too, ready to learn with you, unsure how to be or who to be. I can only read fragments of your worry as the future is a horizon of confusion. I cannot protect you, and yet it is my only job. Aching as I witness from this side of the hourglass other generations of parents knew the outlines, school, career, family, and retirement. But your life will be another shape entirely, forming in the fractures. And when you say you need a goal, I offer you an expired ticket. Superficial memes roll off the tongue right into your bullshit detector. Success in the existing system is not going to do you much good. Your integrity is your rage, and I will nourish it. Your dignity is your curiosity, and I am tiny beside it. Your courage is your pain, and I will sing to it with you. We will riot together. We will notice the nuance of small graces in the day. We will wash the grit of loss for each other. I am your mama, and your future is the story of a storm. I am your cabin, your boots, your rucksack.
So I wanted to share that with you in particular. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Rachel. I really want to share that with you. Actually, I should share it again just because I wanted to look at the words of it there. I feel there's something in like permaculture education in this, that it's not trying to offer recipes that are going to save the world, but it's actually being in learning together, noticing where the ruptures, where the conflicts, where the possibilities are in our communities and neighborhoods, and how we can walk together and be present there, and not trying to control and shape, but to really connect and be in relationship. And so I really wanted to share this with you, because there's this whole sense of when we're looking at what permaculture is, and as educators, it's like permaculture is a set of ideas, ethics, design, ways of doing things, a set of relationships. It's not a set of recipes or instructions or methods, something that's fixed or separate or even finished. Permaculture is this living system that's responsive, or we bring permaculture to our worlds in a responsive way. Permaculture itself doesn't. You do. You do in relationship with your community. You do in relationship with the ground on which you walk. You do with the air that you breathe. I mean, if you are in a place where there's flooding, your response to permaculture education will be different. If you're in a place where there's a lot of youth anxiety, you would show up differently. So whether it be in the relationship with the people, with the more than human lives, with the places within which you are, you bring something different. And so I wanted to just share that piece of permaculture. What is permaculture? What is permaculture education? It's not a thing. It's not a thing that I can go, okay, I'm taking off the shelf and I'm going to give it to you, and you copy that and you do it, and you're doing permaculture education. Like, there are certain sort of ideas or principles or ethics which are there to offer a guide, but really what it is to invite, as the educational host, to invite people into this ecology of relationships. Invite people to be there, to be learning about life and living and connecting. It's about, how we recognize that nothing stands alone, and that we're all in relationship, and we've never ever actually been individuals. Even if we want to think that we are, there's no, what's that old no man is an island entire of itself, very masculine, but no, if you think about that poem, actually it's like no person, no being stands alone entire of itself. Everything is connected to everything else. And in fact, all of us is connected. We are a connected ecosystem in an ecology of relationships. Even our senses, all the sort of bacterial, beings that are in our body that help us to sense the world around us. We are an ecology. And so, right to the cellular level, to the macro level, that's what it is. It's not like I am here and I am the teacher and I have the knowledge and I'm going to impose it upon you or give it to you because I'm more knowledgeable. It's like, how do you come together? And so to me, like, being a permaculture educator is very much about finding those edges of the relationships and then trying to find the weave. And you don't know exactly where that's going to take you. You don't know when you enter into a space whether you, what you'll find. And so rather than thinking, so you can have a set of ideas and practices you might try with people. You might demonstrate a number of things that will help to show how to put those in practice, to, invite people into thinking about design, whatever it might be. But then you need to sort of enter into that space with a sense of like a warmth and humility. It's like that, you can respond to what you'll see. And I think that sort of sense of being in the that group rather than outside of the group. I am the teacher and I'm coming in to teach you. Like no man is an island, no person, no being is an island. Wherever we are there with that group. And so I think just to keep that kind of sense alive. So that was something. And then when you're in that space, that you start to help to grow the perception of possibility. And there's this something else that we were talking about in Warm Data last night. It was this idea of runaway change. Now, if you hear that word runaway change, typically you sort of think about, runaway change in the glacial melt or runaway change in biodiversity loss. Like it often feels like a negative thing when you hear that. Oh, I got runaway change in something or other. But what if that runaway change could be a good thing? How do you catalyze? And this is what permaculture is doing. And when you show up in a community with some kind of, beautiful offering, you're actually trying to invoke some kind of runaway change. That when you go there and you're sharing some ideas and a way of seeing things and a perspective of being in relationship with the place and caring, that you hope that that person will pass it to someone else who pass it to someone else, and that the environment within which you are is coming more alive, which creates more habitat for more species. Like there's runaway change. And that's the kind of thing that I talk about with myceliation. So if you think like, oh, I've got to come in and I'm going to, create systems change, or I'm going to fix this, or I'm going to, do something. I think the way of showing up is in that idea of like seeding something or catalyzing something. And somehow it makes it easier, because if in your minds you're thinking, I have to have all the knowledge because someone might ask me a question, or I don't know if I know enough yet to be the teacher, or all those things that we have in ourselves. Like we all are more than enough. And it's then when we show up in relationship with and offering the possibility of some sort of positive runaway change, or a sense of connectedness, or a sense of care, of being in place, something else happens and a relationship shifts. I think often people are afraid of teaching because they maybe have had a bad experience at school, or they feel like someone might shoot them down, like, but I know this, or, what if that, or have you read this series? Like we have all these sort of like tensions in our body about what it is to be a teacher or an educator, and often feel like I don't know enough. But we have all of our life experience, and when we show up with the perception of that and we shape what we're offering in a way that comes from that zone of comfort with this perspective, we can just be in that space of offering a gift, and permaculture, like anything in life, is a practice. And this idea of having to have it all before you start is kind of really rather nonsense, isn't it? Because we learn it by doing it. So we learn teaching by teaching. We learn hosting by hosting. We learn designing by designing. We learn gardening by gardening. We can't go and know it all somewhere and then, all right, now I'm ready to go and do the doing. The doing is the doing. The practicing is the practicing. The teaching is the teaching. The designing is the designing. And so how you show up in that set of relation, if you should come in and say, all right, I'm the expert permaculture teacher and I'm going to teach you what to do, of course you're going to get shot down in flames because everyone's back goes up because you're putting yourself in a like this. But if you come with an offering and, this is what I'm learning at the moment, and I wonder what, and you come in with that wondering of how this might be useful in this space and invite participation and co-design and sharing of, something else becomes possible in that space. And so I just want to invite wherever you are to just keep that permaculture is a practice. And even, like I was saying, you learn how to teach by teaching. It's also about living. And often in the people think, oh well, I'm not really doing permaculture yet. I'm just doing a little bit. It's like you're if you're engaging in some kind of thought and ecological practice in some way, you are living it. So not all of a sudden you're in one set of circumstances and then you bump out and you're in another set of circumstances. It's alive. It's a growing, shifting, changing, dynamic thing. And circumstances change as well. Like I know during COVID, a lot of things that were happening stopped happening or changed happening. If we need to be caring for someone, someone who's become ill, things shift and change. Different ages of our children, things shift and change. I have a rev head of an 18-year-old son at the moment. That shifted my life. Like I we we need to be, I think, also gentler on ourselves because we have so many expectations that we put on ourselves. So these are things that I'm speaking out as educators, I think. And to really think about that being that we're in a relationship. And when we think about being an educator as being a host of building more ecological relationships with people, that to me feels like a way where we can go. So anyway, I just wanted to share those little reflections of education with you, because it feels sometimes that we can get stuck that permaculture is a thing and we have to teach this and that we have to be ready to deliver. And I really would just love to invite you all to just, and I know many of you are already, stepping out into that and are feeling extraordinarily confident in all that you do. But it's something that creeps in my world sometimes as well. If I want to step into a new space and you get that bit of going, oh, well, can I possibly do that? It's like, yes, of course. We're human. We can step into whichever space we feel drawn to, where we feel that aliveness of moving into. And often when we feel that edge of like, like you get the little wiggles in your tummy of like, I'm a bit out of my comfort zone here. But that feels good because you can, when you harness that and you feel like, oh yeah, I'm in a learning space. My body is in a learning space. I'm opening new neural pathways and my field is expanding and I just absolutely love. Oops, hello, Daff. Thanks for sharing my how do I get you? Let me stop sharing. There we go. That was a bit weird. So anyway, that's what I think.
Sorry.
And no, that's fine. This idea too that we can, what I was saying before about runaway change. Because if we're, we feel like there's runaway change in other directions with war, with ecological devastation, with all things that are going on in the world. But we also have the capacity to affect runaway change in other ways. And that, I feel, is something that as permaculture educators, or just as humans who care, we can all do. And that's just by being you and being in relationship and sharing positively. Or just, gosh, I even just questioned that as I came out of my mouth. Like, just sharing honestly, just being present. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to sort of go in and being the fully positive, what if we started out by saying, I'm deeply concerned about the state of the world. And I've been thinking a lot lately about how my family, my community is able to respond to this. And I wonder where you're at with that. Can we start today with a conversation about that? Like, that's very different than if you went into a session and you said, right, permaculture has all the answers to all the problems in the world. We can save the world. And right, I'm going to teach you these things. And we go out, and if you take these ideas to every community that you go to, we're going to fix this. Very different tonality, isn't it? And so I just think it's important to talk about this, because as educators, there's so many different ways of showing up. And sometimes it feels like it's a bit maybe soft or a bit too gentle or a bit too, not out there. But it kind of seeps in a different way. It enters into your soul in a different way. And sometimes, when you come across things, you sort of bump up. Whereas when you feel like open, or your heart is open, your body is relaxed, your mind is relaxed, things go in differently. Things connect differently. New ideas become possible. And I think a lot of the shift is around how we think and how we feel, because then that shapes everything else that we do. And, we don't have to tell people what we do. It's like helping to create the context where something else is possible. It's like crack making, opening up the spaces in between where often we feel like we're in a deadlock, like can't go this way, can't go that way, everything's a bit stuck. So when we're in conversation and when we open up those spaces, it just feels like we open up the weave a little bit, where there's possibility for other things to kind of get in, and for that to untangle a bit and to sort of reweave a new story in that space. And I think, that when we speak about it from this perspective, it feels somehow juicy and possible. It takes us away from the overwhelm of the news or the overwhelm of what's not working, to focus on how we can be in that learning together and how we can together craft a new story that's an old story at the same time. And yeah, so that's how I feel. Like, as an educator, we're relationship makers. We're not just sharing a relationship with the group that we're in, or with our the place we're in, but with also other bodies of knowledge. So this is the last thing that I just wanted to mention before we hand over to Trish. And this idea that, here's permaculture, here's organics, here's syntropics, here's land care, here's this, here's that. It's all nonsense. Like, it's all one. And like, if you think about um Sam might come from a particular area, and she has, I don't know what to say because I don't know you enough, Sam, but she may have a whole different sort of series of influences and experiences, and then she has an overlay of permaculture on it, and so she comes from that perspective. And someone else might have come from an organic farm, and their mum did biodynamics, and their grandma was doing fermentation, and so all of those things percolate into her knowing, and then with an overlay of a permaculture lens, that creates another weave and another set of possibilities. And so there is no fixed thing to say this is permaculture. And like there are things you can describe, say, okay, this is the permaculture principles and ethics, and in organic agriculture, this is how we describe it. But how it shows up with you is not as a separate entity. And, we can say that, no man is an island that stands alone. No body of knowledge stands alone. It all sits on the shoulders of some other knowledge system. It all connects and weaves and seeps into everything else. And so I just really want to also encourage people not to do that thing of like, this is permaculture and that's not permaculture. It's like, how do we communicate a sense of this idea about like permaculture is about how we learn to be lifing well, and designing ecological systems that fit. And we can, the best thing that we can do is actually not get stuck in one body of knowledge, but to really see the possibilities of leaning into lots of different things. So that's one thing as well. And also, that as an educator, to be leaning into the relationships with your team, with the community, with your neighborhood, with the more than human, with other bodies of knowledge. And that when you show up, when you think, okay, I'm just like a point of communication that helps to open the door for us to have a deeper conversation about this and to learn more deeply about this and to practice design through this lens, to practice what it means to live well in this place through this shared lens, and to know that how you are sharing permaculture is going to be entirely different to the person in the next street or in the next neighborhood or across the planet. It has to be, because you are you, and your lens and all of you and your history and your culture and religion and identity and everything else is going to shape how you show up with permaculture. And so that, I think, is just like that it's it's alive. It's going to keep living. And if we try and box it, it will die. And so it needs to stay in this living systems ecology of communication. I wonder if anyone has any reflections on that before we hand over to Trish. For those of you who just came, I've been spending time a lot with Nora Bateson lately, who we just heard a poem of at the start. And actually, I just wanted to share one last thing. Share. There we go. This is the International Permaculture Festival of Wild Ideas, Wild and Kind Ideas. I put kind in this year because I think that it's really important that we focus on how we can step up and be in like this human kindness. And so just want to share, so Nora will be joining us there. Tyson Young-Caporta just said that he will join us. I had a great conversation the other day with Mazin here, professor. He actually is a Nobel Peace Prize nominee from last year. He is a Palestinian professor who works with permaculture and peace and ecology, and he is extraordinary. So he's going to be joining us. Brilliant Samantha Sweetwater, who, if you've not come across her work, I highly encourage you to come along to that session. Really looking around, as it says, reimagining ourselves. And her book is around also that thing about what it means to be truly human. Jeremy Lent, who's just recently put out a book, or it's coming out actually, just before I'll be launching his book with him at the Deep Transformation Network in June, but at the end of May, he's coming in to do a sort of a pre-launch with us at the festival. Pelletiel, she works in bioregionalism. She's created an embassy of the Baltic and permaculture educator, ecocide activist, brilliant. Andrew Millison is he's actually going to be focusing. I need to change this. He's going to be focusing on water systems. Yeah, look, I'm not going to go through everyone. There's brilliant conversations going to be had here. So please make sure that you get a chance to come along to as many as you possibly can. Or if you're registered, you'll get all the replays as well. So you can tune in later on, maybe listen as a podcast or something. And please do share it out far and wide. I host these, everyone's sort of doing it in the gift economy. It's something I organize in my spare time, and everyone who's there is they're just offering it as a gift. So yeah, please just let people know far and wide if you know of a magazine or a social media or a something or other to let people know. That would be amazing, because this is where we sort of explore those ideas and the context within which, permaculture sits within this sort of expanding field of ideas and possibilities and practice. Trish is here with us. Trish is a member of the Permaculture Educators Program, and her focus is on mental health. And so the session today that she's going to share with us is around mental health and permaculture, and as an educator and as how to shape. I think I'm going to let you introduce it better, but how do we really weave this into our work as permaculture educators to understand this and practice that? So I guess as well, it's like it's another practice. And I also want to encourage you all to think about how you might want to share the focus that you have in permaculture, or a practice that you have in permaculture, and perhaps be a presenter at another time. Amanda was here last time. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. And all of the replays of these sessions are available. So if you missed Amanda's, it's in Hive, and I highly recommend you go and have a look at that too. All right, I'm going to hand over to you now, Trish, and spotlight you. There we go.
Thank you, Morag. I think I just need to share my screen. So just sit tight while we try and get that done. I'll put my glasses on so I can look intelligent. Okay, let's just try and do this. Morag, did I do that correctly? Have you got my little face like a weather presenter at the bottom?
I do, and I see
Okay.
all looking perfect.
Okay, that's good. Okay, well, let's just get ourselves organized to drive the ship here. Okay. Okay, well, hi everybody. It's so nice to be here. And I was just thinking as you were talking, Morag, that being in a group like this is just like being in a group of friends, isn't it? It's just such a lovely, kind space to be in. Just to position the presentation, just a little bit about myself, just so you understand where the two margins of permaculture and my life come. So I'm a registered clinical counsellor. I've done advanced studies in suicide, which is my specialism, and have done work in Australian schools, going into schools after a suicide, just to help rebuild the communities there. And also have worked with Lifeline, which is our Australian suicide crisis support line. I'm now in my own private practice that specializes in eco-distress. That's a passion of mine, and I'm finding among the young people it's just such a growing need. But if you said to me, that's my work side of things, but if you said to me, who am I would say I'm a permaculturalist. And I did my first PDC 15 years ago and have been trying very hard to regenerate my property along those principles. I had a refresher with Morag's course just a few years ago, and that was such a valuable experience. It's funny how with your changing life and maturity, your perspectives change. So I found that very useful. And I now have my learner plates on with the educator side of things because I've just started that certificate. So I am a learner. Um, if you're worrying about my accent, I had the great privilege of being born and brought up in a beautiful country called Zimbabwe. And my husband's work has also taken us to 5 different countries, and I'm very porous with accents, so it's a mess. Just so you don't worry about it, there we are. I thought it would be useful to clarify what I'm going to be talking about when I say mental health. So, we're not going to be talking about mental illnesses. We're going to be talking about our state of mental well-being or our mental health. And, mental health is what helps us thrive. It allows us to manage our daily stress. It helps us feel confident in our world, and it helps us connect with others. And it also helps us in our activities and our work to be productive. So it's very important. And I'm sure you'll know from your own experiences that our mental health goes up and down, and it's flexible and ever changing. There's no sort of, stable place. Um, and, depending on what's going on around us, it'll affect our mood, our outlook on life, and even what actions we choose to do. Now, I just wanted to invite you just to have a look at these little faces and just to check in with your own mental health today and just see where you'd put yourself. If you'd like to pop it into the comments, you're welcome. Um, or just have it for yourself. There's no right or wrong with this. It's just a check-in. And you'll see just above the little faces that there's a resilience toolbox stamp. And that's going to pitch up quite a bit in some of the slides. And that's just to signal to you that this is a tool that you can take away with you and use in your permaculture practice. So it wouldn't be unusual if there was a range of responses to that survey. And it's because we all come from different contexts on any one day. Some of us may have just come at the end of a very heavy day, and others of us are just waking up and trying to get our heads into our bodies. Some of us have difficult lives happening. Some of us are going okay at the moment. So it's very normal that there's different contexts, and I'm just mentioning this because this will be true of your learners as well. And I just thought I'd like to invite you into just giving yourself a gift. And I'm going to play some music for 2 minutes, and I'd like us just to use that time just to put aside what's happening in our lives so that we can come with really gentle, open hearts and minds to the presentation that's going to follow. You can close your eyes, you can look at the picture, and I'll call you back when it's finished. All right, welcome back, everybody. Just notice how you felt during that. Sometimes you might feel a bit irritable that you're not really giving yourself permission just to put your load down. Some people well up with a bit of emotion. It's just the body wants to just have a time to just deal with what's inside. And some people just enjoy the break. So whatever you responded to, that's fine. So today I'd like to share with you the 10 pillars of mental wellness and how I feel that they relate so strongly to permaculture. And I'd like to just have a chat about supporting our learners' mental health and also supporting our mental health as educators and leaders. So let's kick off with this first section. What are the pillars? So the pillars really came from the question, what supports our mental health? And this question was asked by mental health professionals, but also by doctors, as finding the best way to support their clients. And they found some key things that really hold up our mental health, like pillars holding up a roof. And depending on the worldview of the practitioner, depending on how holistic they are, they might talk about the 5 wellness pillars, or the 8, or the 9, or the 10. So the more holistic the practitioner is, the bigger the number is. At this point, just note on that image the interconnectedness between all of the pillars. It works like a lattice. And let's have a look now what are the pillars. So here they are. Don't worry reading them all. It's just a bit of a sense, and we'll go through them later. But with my permaculture hat on, these always look to me like elements. So if we were going to design a mental health system to support us in the very best way, we'd look at the elements that we want in that. And these are some of the things that really should be showing up, that, the researchers show that it is helpful to us. So I'm going to just read a definition of each of the pillars, just a brief one, and I'm going to invite you just to look for those glimmers of recognition where you see them in permaculture. So let's start with the physical pillar. That's around our movement, our nutrition, our sleep, body care, for our energy and vitality. The emotional pillar is our self-awareness, our regulation, our expression and resilience in daily life. The mental pillar is our mindset, our learning, thinking, designing, clarity and psychological flexibility. The spiritual is meaning, purpose, values, and connection to something greater. Some people confuse spiritual as just religious. It could be our permaculture framework. The social is relationships, belonging, communication, and community connection and engagement. The cultural pillar, which is often left out of the more narrow wellness pillars I feel that's a terrible thing. It's our identity, our heritage, our rituals, and our shared meaning that nurture our sense of belonging. The creative pillar is often left out too. That's our expression, our imagination and our play, our innovation, joy, and our insight. The occupational is our purposeful activity, whether that's paid or unpaid. It's our growth and balance and our contribution. The environmental pillar is our connection to nature, sustainable living, sensory surroundings. And last but not least, because they're all equal, the financial, which is about our security, our planning, and our values-aligned resource stewardship. So you can see that they really are an ecosystem, and they all work together for better or worse, depending on how well they're holding up. And I think that system of ecosystem is very familiar to us as permaculturalists. So, why am I banging on about the 10 pillars at this lovely meeting? Well, the more I work with permaculture, the more I see the 10 pillars absolutely organically and naturally embedded in our practice. And I hope you recognize some of those there as well. And the more I work with my counseling clients, the more I wish I could prescribe Morag's PDC as a prescription to support them. Because there is so much that is about wellness in permaculture. And this is such a strength, I believe, because people are really struggling. Um, this is a 2025 survey. It's Australian figures. 1 in 7 adults are reporting high to very high mental distress. And 1 in 1.5 young people, that's 18 to 25, high to very high distress. And I can tell you that's rising. Now, we've talked about the high to very high distress. A Beyond Blue survey last year, which they look at depression in Australia, they found that 1 in 3 adults were reporting that there are several things in their life that are causing them mental distress. So I think it's fair to say that amongst our learner group, there will be people carrying heavy mental burdens. And people are definitely looking for a better way. And this is where I get excited with my sitting in the margins between counseling and permaculture, because I see those 10 pillars embedded in our beautiful permaculture framework. And that beautiful framework delivers agency to practitioners, and it delivers hope. And if you have agency and hope, you have optimum mental wellness. So it's really led me to feel that, we're delivering a broader service than we realize as permaculturalists and permaculture educators. Um, with my counseling hat on, I see permaculture as preventative and protective for mental health. It gives us a long-term approach designed to build agency, resilience, and hope that's individualized for each person. How good is that? It reduces the incidence of mental health conditions because it's propping up those pillars. And perhaps we can discuss this, how you feel about this later. But for now, I'm going to park that and we'll move on to supporting our learners' mental health. So a question we can ask ourselves is, how can we harness these embedded wellness aspects of permaculture to support our learners in this unpredictable world? Well, I think you've probably picked up now that I'm really excited about the 10 pillars. And I wonder whether we can connect the dots a little better for our learners. Because if you're aware that something is supporting your mental health, it really leads to actionable knowledge, which leads to better self-care, and it fosters conversations around mental health, and it builds our resilience. So I felt we could really do this in a fun way with a teachable moment. We could take out each pillar and we could track it into permaculture and see how does it work there. Let's just see what that looks like. This was just a brain dump from me, and I'm sure you'll be able to think of others. So if we look at the physical pillar, we're doing physical work in building and caring for things. That can lead to increased fitness. We get more vitamin D because we're mostly outside. We possibly are growing fresh produce to eat. That brings us better nutrition. After a day out on the land, you definitely sleep better. And the careful zoning that we design into our gardens and our lives protects our energy. So already this physical pillar is propping us up really well. if you had a group of learners, perhaps you could divide the pillars amongst them and get them to do this exercise and then to share back into the group and just to sort of share that awareness of how the pillars prop up our mental health within permaculture, quite naturally. Now, there's another way that I feel could help our mental health, could help our learners with their mental health, and that's in validating their feelings. And I feel that often we're the only people who are talking about things that people are worried about. There's not a culture, particularly in Australia, I'm not sure how other countries are, about really explicitly talking about the things we're struggling with in media and generalized places. So we're often it. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people in my counseling rooms who've said, nobody understands me. I talk about things, but they just don't get it. They tell me I worry too much. And one of the first steps back into mental wellness is being heard. You're okay. You're not stupid or crazy. And it's quite easy to validate people's feelings. One of the simplest ways is just to repeat back what they've said. You're feeling worried. You're anxious about climate change. You feel that people aren't doing enough for the world. And perhaps you can take it a little bit further and invite some conversation. You're feeling anxious. Am I right in that? Can you tell me more about that? Does anyone else in the group feel the same way? And it just helps people feel that you've given them the time and the space to actually hear these concerns, because people are very, very concerned. I think it's about 78 to 80% of people feel our government should be doing more, specifically with climate change. Now, there's another thing that I know is embedded in permaculture, and I just wanted to really draw it out again as to how it can really help mental health, and that's the dealing in radical hope. So the radical hope is the unwavering belief that a better future is possible, even when the path is unclear or the current situation seems hopeless. It's really important we acknowledge that things aren't great and that we acknowledge that we don't know for sure how things will turn out, because we can't know for sure. But it is really helpful to highlight that permaculture can help us be part of the solutions rather than adding to the problems, because people are so concerned that everything they touch is bloodied, as that beautiful poem by Nora said. There's a lovely quote that I just love this quote. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that quote for me captures the agency that permaculture offers us and the hopefulness which captures mental wellness. It's a very powerful message. There's another thing that I'd like to share with you, if I may, and that's watching our language. Now, I don't mean cursing. I'm a terrible cursor. And this is actually where it gets tricky, because we do want to be honest about the situation. But we've got to be very careful that we don't freak people out, because the natural reaction for people when they hear something fearful is to look away or to shut down completely. I'm going to read some of these words, and I just want you to bring awareness to how it feels in your body and your mind. Crisis, emergency, devastation, doom, end of times. Now, while I read those words, your deep brain is believing every word I'm saying and is preparing you for flight and fright and is flooding your body with stress hormones. And you might not be aware of this, but it's happening. And it's probably all right for us because we're permaculturalists and we're aware there's a problem, but we've got a plan and we're working on that. But for learners who are coming into your spaces who may be vulnerable, those words flood them with stress hormones. It's like a tsunami that knocks out their smart brain. So they're not able to recover and they cycle down into anxiety and a sense of doom. It's such a difficult thing, isn't it? Because we do want to be honest and we don't want to pussyfoot around. But just to be aware, that's all I'm asking, is that you be aware of the power of the words. Shall we try that exercise with some alternative words and just see how you feel in your body? Challenge, opportunity, choice, transition, rebirth, regeneration. Now, I know we're playing with words, but the problem is your brain believes the words you say. And I guess I'm just really curious and interested in how we can create a learning environment where people have the most chance to move from fear into action. Something I could suggest is when you are having a group of people around you, you don't really know their backgrounds, you don't know where they are. Just do that quick survey that we did earlier. Just, where are you at today? And that means that you're aware what's in front of you and you can adjust your languaging. It's just a little bit of a safety net. Now, we've had some strong words, and I'm going to invite you just with me to reset your nervous system. And I'll be playing some music that is trickling water. It's one of the quickest ways to reset your nervous system. Sit by water or listen to it. Um, and just imagine the flowing water taking those stress hormones out of your body, and the water that's coming from upstream bringing you safety, calm, and peacefulness. It just goes for a minute. Now, I know I've said that trickling water is really wonderful for resetting the nervous system, but it always makes me feel I have to have a pee. So, but we're all right. I've gone before we started. So, um, Morag, are we okay for time? I've just got a short section of about 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So let's move on now, just to look at our own mental health as educators, as leaders, as thought activists, how we can help our own mental health. So we know the pillars are just a wonderful thing, and we know that they're embedded in all of the work that we do. Here's a really quick and simple exercise you can do to check in to see what of your pillars are weighing you down. So you want all your pillars working equally, and if one's sort of really not working well, you get this tipping, unbalancing effect. So it's a really simple exercise. You just write down the 10 pillars on one side of a piece of paper. You give yourself a score. You can go 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 if you want a little bit more nuance. You put your little circles or crosses on it, and you can very, very quickly see which of your pillars is weighing you down and which needs a little bit of attention in a very gentle and gracious way. So this awareness is just a nudge to rebalance. And the solutions can be surprisingly simple. Just little small adjustments can make a big effect. And at the end of this session, I'll give you a link to some free resources that, if you're interested in following this further, you can use those. Now, there's one more tool for our own mental health that I wanted to just share with you today, and that's giving ourselves permission to have fun. I've worked in the not-for-profit world for 40 years, and oh my goodness, we're a serious bunch, aren't we? And, we do carry a heavy load and we deal with tough stuff. But I'm here today to just put the idea that it's not frivolous or childish or insulting to have fun in your life. We have one life, and we need balance and light amongst the dark. Having fun is one of the best antidotes to the heaviness that we have in the world today, but also in the work that we are doing. I would like you to think of it as a medical prescription. So, having fun is a dose of free, totally legal, happy chemicals. So it gives you a dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, all for free. Have a look at this. One belly laugh relaxes your muscles for 45 minutes. That eases anxiety, boosts your mental resilience, and it boosts your immunity. And if you're still not convinced that having fun is a good thing, some research came out this year that said that activists who balance self-care with joyful activities are most effective and continue longest in activism and thought leadership. And I'm pretty sure that all of us here, we want to be effective and we want to be in there for the long term. So I do urge you, whatever fun is fun for you, it can be anything, dancing, singing, having a lovely walk, going canoeing, whatever it is, try to inject some of that into your life. Think of it as a balance. All right, well, look, today we've gone through the 10 pillars of mental wellness and how they affect and implement, really sit within permaculture, I believe. We've had some ideas about how we can support our learners' mental health and how we can support our own mental health. And I've offered some tools for you if you'd like them. The take a moment exercise, just the 2 minutes of peaceful music, which is great when you start a session just to help people leave their busy commute and the kids and all of that stuff behind, but also for you in your life just to manage overwhelm. We're all busy people, and 2 minutes is not too long to take out of your day. We've looked at regulating our systems after we've had, when we have to talk about tough things, just pop on some water music or sit by the creek, and that'll just cleanse your system again. We've talked about doing a little quick survey of yourself or your learners, just so that you know what you're dealing with. The wellness pillars have been the star of the show today. Um, a great teaching exercise if you'd like that. But also just to check in with yourself, just to make sure that you're staying balanced in your busy world. We're so looking at what we're doing for other people. It's helpful to check in. We just talked about validating concerns of our learners, providing radical hope, and watching our words. And most of all, please have some fun. Um, if you want any more information on the pillars, pop onto my website, greendooracademy.org, and in the resource library, you go to the More button, and there's the resource library. There's an overview of the pillars, and then each pillar has got something there, some surveys and checklists and some things you can do to balance. And within the gift economy, I'd like to just offer that if you do want to touch base on any mental health issues in relation to permaculture, please feel free to contact me at support@greendooracademy.org, and that's a free bouncing off survey service. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you so much, Trish. What a warm embrace of a presentation that was. I'm just going to thank you.
Thank you, Morag. I'm just not sure how to unshare.
I have.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is to invite those of you who are here to share how that landed with you, what you've taken away from that, and how how you already attend to the wellness of the people in your groups, or whether, what you heard just now, you were thinking, oh, that would be really helpful to do this. So I just hand it over to you. Please open your mic, and we're a small enough group just to do popcorn style. Rachel, hi.
Hi, thanks so much, Trish. That was fantastic. I work in a residential mental health setting and run therapeutic horticulture groups for the last few years. So what you said absolutely resonates with me. And yeah, validating feelings goes a really long way. And being really mindful of your language as well, always making sure that you're instilling hope and agency and empowerment and not getting too, I try to be really truthful. It's very, but also in a really, appropriate and hopeful way, because I have really passionate, strong feelings and opinions, and I have to tone a lot of that stuff down. And it's been just amazing to be able to transition from working in a mental health sort of setting and then doing the therapeutic horticulture with people and having the time to calm down and slow down and bring fun and joy and calm into people's lives with having a relationship with plants and nature. So it's absolutely wonderful. So I really enjoyed what you were saying, and I'll probably get in contact with you and try and have a bit of a chat after this as well. Yeah.
That'd be
Thank
great.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel. You're doing such good job, such good work there, and it's so interesting, the horticultural aspect, how healing that is as well.
Absolutely.
Mm. Mhm.
I really like what you're talking about, the sort of the possibility of prescribing permaculture. And honestly, I've heard people doing that.
Mm.
And from all the things that you've said, it makes so much sense in so many different ways. And one of the things that so some of you might know, I work a lot too with Fritjof Capra, a systems thinker, and I work with a lot of young people to go through his course to look at systems thinking, what is life, and part of where we get to in that is around the systems view of health. And one of the first questions we ask in that is, well, where is health? And when you were speaking about the pillars, it made me think very much of that, because health is not, well, it's not just in your body, it's in the economy, it's in the education, it's in the environmental context, it's in all of those things. And so that systemic approach of really finding your way through that into that wholeness there, really, yeah. So that just connected with me. And what really struck me about what you said, I loved everything that you were saying, but my heart just went when you said 1 in 1.5 young people. Uh, that's that's a crisis of epic proportions.
Yeah.
Why is that not on the front page news?
Mm.
Um, and I really did. So my daughter is now 20. No, she's not. She's 19. She turns 20 in a month or two. But in this last year of university, I've every time I speak to her, she says, "I'm just off to help so and so. I'm just off to help so and so." Oh, what are you helping them move? No, no, Mum, they're having a mental health crisis. Oh, and then the next week, I'll speak to her. She's helping someone else, and she's helping someone else, and she says, "Mum, everyone's having problems." And then I asked my 17-year-old. I said, "Mate, what's going on in your friends' worlds?" He says, "Oh yeah, they're all on meds. They're all, what? Like, I had no idea the extent of it. I knew that it was there, but I didn't realize the extent of it. And then I asked my 13-year-old. He's just turned 13. I said, "Oh, what's going on?" He says, "Yeah, people don't care. They're all depressed. They're, like." they don't say they don't care, but they're also all depressed. Like that's those two things together didn't really. But so it didn't matter. All of my kids' ages are all saying that, and I know that they've also experienced periods of depression, anxiety as part of that. One of them in particular, I ended up homeschooling because of the levels of anxiety. But just the figure of one in one, sorry, one in one,
one and a half.
one and a half.
Yeah.
That is, it's shocking. And I I think what you're talking about with this permaculture offering some, sort of sense of radical hope and possibility, and also this sense too that it helps to, like, in our permaculture classes or in our conversations that we have, it doesn't have to be a class, in our conversations, we help to make those connections of those unseen parts. And, I think that's an important part. An important part of permaculture is making the connections, is building the relationship, so that we have that principle, integrate rather than segregate, and we often think about that being, oh, we'll connect the chickens to the compost to the veggie garden. It's also about connecting the pillars in our own lives, and then connecting our own lives to the garden, to the community, and all of those things together. So we are the interstitial spaces. Often you see a systems map being like there's lots of dots, connect the dots, and you've got the dots and the lines. But what happens in between all that space? What's the quality of the relationship between those different parts, and what's the context? And that's the bit that we sit in that like lovely goopy contextual space that is, everywhere. Amanda.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thank you, Morag. Trish, that was absolutely beautiful. I can't believe 30 minutes went so quickly. I just wanted to learn more and more and more. I just wanted to share two things. One is Dan Kittredge reminded me of a beautiful book called Anastasia, which, if you can get hold of it, I'd really recommend it. And Anastasia, she's a Russian lady. Some people think she doesn't exist, but she lives in the wilds of and I've forgotten the name of the forests in the north of Russia. She reminded me, or actually told me through her book, that I probably didn't know this, about us being a keystone species that have the ability to create life. And before that, I was concerned that humans, and a lot of people think this, that we're a virus on the planet and the planet would be better off without us. So she completely changed the way that I thought about us, and it's changed the way that I practice my permaculture. And everything I do, I ask the question: is my decision going to create more life? And so that was one thing I wanted to share. And then the second, and I think that's about agency, Trish, from what you were saying.
Yeah.
And the second thing was I went to a mindfulness conference, and a Dr. Robin Youngson is a New Zealand doctor, and he wowed us all by crying through his entire presentation, and he just won our hearts. And he's written a couple of books, and one of them had one tip which changed the way that I teach. And one of my hats is I teach lean construction for construction, big projects, and I work with a lot of big contractors. They're all men, and I used to start by saying, right, tell me all your problems. Let's get them up on the whiteboard, and all those negative words would come out. And quite often there'd be somebody in the room who would be quite fighty, and it would be crunchy. And Dr. Robin Youngson told us about this technique that he used with nurses who carry a lot of stress in their jobs. He said, get people and neighbors to just share a story about how the best day that they remember, a day when everything flowed, you went home, you felt great. don't analyze it, just tell the story. And then you get people to share what they heard, not their own story, because that can go on a bit, but just share a neighbour's story. And you capture the words that come out, and they're all beautiful words on your positive word list. And so I've used that. And since then, with what I've learned we're doing is priming people for positivity. And the uplift of the energy in the room after you finish giving them a few minutes to share is incredible. And then people are really primed for learning. So that's a lovely tip as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to share
Thanks,
those
Amanda.
two things. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Amanda. It sounds quite challenging in those
Mhm.
workshops for you with everyone's negativity pouring out at you, and yeah, it sounds like a good way to shift the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Mm,
I love the idea
Amanda.
of stories. Yeah, definitely. Like stories are
Yeah.
wholes. The words are the parts, but the stories are the wholes. And I love the framing that you said there, Amanda, too, about priming for positivity. Like, what are the stories that make us feel whole as well? What are those stories that make us feel well? Yeah. And also the point that you made there about, from Anastasia around that, we are a keystone species. Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking, when I think I must have been 19 or 20 and I was uni and I was writing about things. And yeah, it's like humans are the cancer on the planet. It's like until I shifted that perception, I was stuck and depressed. And it was that thing around I was all very too serious. And I started losing friends because I was always talking about the negative things and how people were the problem. Like people don't want to be part of that kind of conversation. It's exactly what you said, Trish. It was bringing up, people walked away from it. There was, and what something else I've been hearing lately, and I can't remember where it is, but it's been coming up through the systems thinking work that I've been tending to lately, and it is that human, because we are nature, and we're not like it's not nature and humans, we are nature, and that our cells are from the earth, that we've ingested the food which has grown out of the soil, which is, we are everything and everywhere, and we are an ecology of organisms ourselves. We're not just a human, but there's something about evolution that humans are Earth's consciousness, that the Earth through humans is able to see itself. We've even got to the point of the Earth has created these beings which are able to go out into space and to look back and to see the beauty of itself. We are Earth, we are nature, we are planetarians. And I'm not articulating it as beautifully as I'd like to, but this sense that there's no disconnection. We are the earth, and we are the earth being conscious of itself, and in that possibility of being able to be a keystone species in that can shift a lot of things. And so it's like how are we able to perceive ourselves in relationship brings back to how well we're feeling. And if you do that checklist and you have a lot of things that are pulling you down, like there's huge financial stresses, or there's illness in the family, or something, like you don't have time to really tend to that. So I wonder, Trish, how you then, if you do find there is like a deep heaviness in a room
Mm.
and people are really holding a lot of pain or struggle or anxiety, and I just another part of this, I know, like in permaculture, another member of this group works with permaculture in um, Kashmir, and was saying that the women are so traumatized by all that's happened there that learning doesn't happen in the way that it would happen in a class when she's teaching in England. It's something completely other. Similarly, when I talk with the women who were doing the work in the refugee settlements, because there's such heaviness, there's so many parts that are kind of way down the line. So one, recognizing that it is different, but I wonder whether a lot of people don't want to ask the question because they don't want to know, because they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you are going to ask the question and you get a room full of people saying, I feel shit, what's your way of tending to that?
I think, I've sat with a lot of people who are close and at suicide. And for me, our mental health is on a continuum, and there's really not much difference between feeling a bit low and the suicidal thoughts. It's just the intensity of it. And I think we feel very frightened. I know when I talk about suicide, people go, oh my God, this, I don't want to know, it's terrifying. But it is part of the human condition. Our emotions are part of us. And I think what I would do, Morag, if I was in a group that had a lot of heaviness, I would really cater to that heaviness and have a chat about it and talk about it and let people tell their truth. It's the validating of people's where they are right then. It's that quote of starting where we are now and moving slowly from that. I think gentleness, compassion, and just making it okay not to feel brilliant. I mean, really, how many of us are walking around the world today feeling chickadee-boo? I think we're all pretty devastated with what's happening. We have this awareness of the young people, this shameful situation that we've placed our young people into because the adults in the room have not been able to grasp the reality in front of them. Um, I think it's talking about these things, but coupled with we are humans, we are in this situation because we've made these choices and we can change our choices. That is where the hope lies, and that there are people working very hard to make things better, but it's the quiet, silent majority. It's not the people in the newspapers, it's not our politicians. It's all of the people who are quiet in our neighborhoods, hidden, and it's trying to sort of connect people up with that lovely web of people who are working. So I would say I totally understand people being a bit fearful of asking people how they are because you're probably going to get I'm pretty shit really, if we're honest, because you want people to be honest. And I think it's just saying that's okay. We're here together, we're as a group, and we have a framework that you can make your own that can give you a way to live your life with your values without doing harm. And I think it's such a powerful, powerful message. You're part of a local or group. You're part of a national, global group. That there's power in that, knowing that you're not alone. And this is really what people feel because it's not in the media, it's not in our television programs. It's like it's not happening. People feel alone, and yet we're all thinking, jeepers, we need to get on a war footing here, but no one's doing anything. So
Yeah,
just not being fearful of it. There's always support services around you. You know that you can always, if you feel someone really you're worried about them, you can connect them up to places like Lifeline or to local counselors or to local psychologists. Beyond Blue does free counseling, 8 free sessions now. So there's no financial burden in Australia. There's support. It's not your responsibility to have the ultimate responsibility for those people's mental health, but you certainly can be a conduit to getting them support and wrapping validation and hope around them.
Yeah.
So try not to be too scared about it.
Yeah. 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 Thanks, Trish. I
Yeah.
mean, I just, noticing that, often it doesn't get asked because people don't,
Yeah.
it's too raw to know. Because,
Yeah.
like your professor who was crying away through, I've done that. Oh my God, I was doing a talk at it was the National Community Gardens conference, and I gave a talk and I cried my way through the whole damn thing. Like, and because I was talking about um, the possibility of permaculture and community gardens and the young refugee women that I work with and the violence that's happened to them, and I just felt all of the things that I'd been holding in the work that I do with them just well up and come out. And part of me felt shame that I didn't have the juice to hold it and just deliver this thing without it. Another me felt like there's sort of like really good because I enable myself to really feel it and to be just present as who I was and how I was feeling and to show the impact that this is having. It's not just the people over there, like these are real people with real, anyway. I went through a lot of things, and I was actually thinking about it the other day, thinking, oh God, I don't know why I can't just sort of let it go, just cry through a whole thing, room full of people, and my son, who at the time was 10. And that I think was probably the bit because about minding language. So I was really trying to mind my language around him and to be strong. And there was a shift in our relationship after that. Like I think he saw me as a human, as not just a mum. He saw me as a human who engages in the world. And through the pain of what I try to address, find that active hope. And so I felt okay about it, but still at the same time, like blubbering away through a presentation and maybe modeling that perhaps it's okay to just be really
Yeah.
raw. You don't have to have your shit together all the time to be able to kind of do something and be present and put yourself out. So, but I think just coming back to that thing about belonging is so, so important. If you feel your sense of being part of something larger than yourself, being part of like sense of belonging, connection. And the other thing that Fritjof talks about in the Systems View of Life course is saying we all belong to two communities at least. There's so many more that we do, but we belong to the community of life and we belong to humanity. So like those at least are the two that we always belong to. We are connected deeply with the community of life. And then we have, of course, all of our others. But gosh, thank you so very much, Trish, for sharing with us today. And just I feel it has landed in such a beautiful way. There's sort of like some sort of an easing or a sort of like even sort of some tingles that I get. Like when something lands with you and you allow it to seep and you allow yourself to be open to things, but also to feel, I also feel like I do feel an anxiety around the youth stats that you said.
Could I just say something there, Morag, in relation to you crying at your presentation? I think that is what young people are wanting to see. I think they want to see the adults showing they recognize how bad things are. So in many ways, what you did was very validating
Mhm.
for people.
Thanks.
I know it's uncomfortable at the time, but we
I had no
we really
control over it. There's no way
no,
of stopping once it started.
yeah. And I mean, we still struggle with the stigma
Mm,
around not being okay. And,
mm,
you know, we are human. We
mm,
are human. This horrible toxic positivity is such a burden. And the more we can talk about how we really are, the better. And the more we can really say what we have at the moment is terrifying, and it's, to me, the sane response is to sob your heart out. That's the sane
It's
response.
cathartic in a way, sometimes you let it out and it's like, oh, yeah, now I can breathe again.
Yeah. And then
look at all that pain that I was holding in there.
Yes.
It's like dancing, it's like crying,
Yes.
it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So
Because
Sam,
if
you
you
wanted to say something, and then
sorry.
we should wrap up. I do actually have to go and have some fun. My son is going off playing soccer, and I'm going to go and cheer on.
Well, in that
Yay.
case, I'm going to be very quick and just say, Trish,
Okay.
I could listen to you all day.
Oh,
It was a delight to
thank you.
actually get up at 6 o'clock, well, 5:30 Victorian time, and I can see the dark outside. Everybody's window has become light now, and I feel like that's what you've given me today. Just to, it can be overwhelming to think of the amount of change required, or you can put it back into a small community perspective, and that positivity, the radical hope, I should say, just starts to sort of bubble up. One quick or two quickies. One, I have a neurodiverse nephew who has just been thrown out of school for the 100th time. Parents gone mad. I said to him, hey, listen, do you want to do a joint permaculture design course with me? He could not believe it because he's an intellectual. He's, learns
Yeah.
Russian and Russian military history and, typical. He's now gone to work on a farm on the weekends, and the change in this boy is amazing.
Wow.
So sometimes it's just about flipping that switch a bit,
Yeah.
and the anger that he has is being turned into something beautiful. And yes, I went to a conference in Seattle. It was an international conference on wildland fire safety, to talk about the an incident that occurred during Black Saturday here in Victoria. Cried the whole way through it, but it was so cathartic. In fact, I cried. You know how everybody else seems to be one of these TED Talk kind of deliverers. I read from my piece of paper because I just needed to focus. And this was an international conference. I was so embarrassed, but I was just, weeping. Well, I got a standing for it. And I just went, people want to see empathy. People want to see, and I agree with what you're saying. Teenagers in particular just want to see an authenticity in the people that they're dealing with. So thanks, Trish, for the morning. Didn't want to take it
thank
up.
you,
Go
Trish.
to soccer. Have a
Sam.
great time.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Trish, particularly for really bringing that to us. And oh gosh, I will be sharing out the replay with the community. Those of you who are here, please do the uplift, say, check out this presentation from Trish, listen to this conversation. It always helps if someone else kind of passes it on as well, and it goes further that way. Thank you, Trish, and thank you all. So lovely to be here in conversation with you this morning. All right, take care. Bye.